Have you ever found yourself cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, staring at the warm yellow light spilling across an empty dining table, and in that quiet moment, realizing there was a strange, heavy coldness inside you, a feeling almost impossible to describe, as if you never truly belonged anywhere? Even though you've grown up, built a family, a career, or a life that might look complete to everyone else, somewhere deep within, there is still a hollow space that never seems to fill. Maybe you've asked yourself, am I overcomplicating everything? Am I just too sensitive? Or worse, maybe you've silently blamed yourself. There must be something wrong with me. That's why my mother couldn't love me the way I needed. If questions like these have ever echoed through your mind, I want to tell you something important. You are not alone, and you are not too sensitive. What you're feeling has a name. It's called the mother wound, the invisible wound that forms in the very first, most essential relationship of your life, the one you had with your mother. The mother wound isn't just a few sad memories or a handful of moments when she lost her temper. It is an emotional injury that takes shape when a mother, for any reason, cannot or will not offer her child the emotional connection that every human being needs to feel worthy of unconditional love. Some people grow up in households that seem perfectly fine on the outside. The meals were cooked, the clothes were washed, the schedules were organized. But one thing was missing: the warmth of an embrace, the safety of gentle eyes, the feeling of simply being cherished. Over time, that absence turns into a quiet, corrosive whisper inside your mind: I'm not good enough. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The mother wound is exactly this hidden force. It lingers beneath your fear of failure, your unexplained anger, and your constant longing to prove yourself. It drives you to chase after love in places where it was never safe, so you can repeat the same familiar story, trying to be good enough to deserve love, only to feel unworthy all over again. You might be thinking, but I'm an adult now. The past doesn't matter anymore. But the child inside you doesn't measure time the way grown-ups do. That child is still there, still waiting to be seen, to be loved, still hoping you will finally turn around and whisper, "I won't abandon you again." The mother wound isn't about wearing the badge of a victim. It isn't about blaming your mother forever. It is about telling the truth so you can finally walk beyond it with a freer heart. And if this is the first time you're hearing this term, please don't worry. We already have other videos on this channel where we explain in detail what the mother wound is, how it shows up, and how it affects your life. You can always go back to watch them whenever you're ready. But today in this video, I don't just want to talk about the pain. I want to walk with you towards something more important, a way out. Because the mother wound is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your journey to become the loving, gentle parent you always wished, for the one you can become for yourself. This journey won't be easy. There will be tears, moments of anger, and old sadness rising up to be felt. But behind all of it, there is a freedom you deserve to claim. The freedom to love yourself. The freedom to no longer be afraid. The freedom to finally believe you are enough. So I invite you to stay with me until the very end of this video. Let the 7 steps ahead be a simple map that guides you back to the truest part of your own heart. Are you ready? Watch this video until the end, because by the time you finish, you will see that you don't have to carry this pain forever. There is one truth that most of us spend years trying to avoid, admitting that we were hurt. We grow up in a culture that treats mothers as sacred, almost untouchable figures. Every mistake, every wound is softened by familiar phrases like, "She did it because she wanted the best for you," or "You should be grateful your mother sacrificed so much." And so, as time passes, you learn to reassure yourself with those explanations. You tell yourself, "Maybe I was just too sensitive. I should have been stronger. I'm sure she loved me just in her own way." But no one tells you that the more you deny your pain, the more you turn it into a wound that never heals. Because every child needs love. And when that love isn't there, you grow up carrying an unspoken question that haunts you. What did I do wrong? Carl Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is why the very first step in healing the mother wound isn't forgiveness. It isn't forgetting. It's facing the truth and saying it out loud. You need to look at your memories and have the courage to say, yes, I wasn't loved the way I needed. This doesn't mean you hate your mother. It doesn't make you an ungrateful child. It simply means you are ready to honor what really happened. The love you deserved wasn't there the way you hoped. Maybe you're so used to dismissing your own feelings. Maybe you've spent your whole life defending your mother's behavior. She was just too busy. She was hurt herself. She didn't know how to love. All of that might be true, but none of it erases the reality you were hurt. And before you can heal, you have to stop and acknowledge that pain as part of your story. Ask yourself these questions. If I wasn't afraid of being judged, what would I admit about my childhood? Are there moments I never let myself remember because they hurt too much? If I didn't have to pretend to be strong, what would I say about my relationship with my mother? The truth is sometimes raw and cold, but only when you have the courage to name it can the wound begin to soften. You don't have to write everything down in one night. You don't have to scream it out to the world. You only have to be brave enough to say to yourself, I went through more than I ever acknowledged. I deserve to be heard. If you feel afraid, that is perfectly normal. Maybe right now a part of you wants to run to find any distraction. If so, gently place your hand over your heart, close your eyes and whisper, it's safe for me to tell the truth. Some people spend their entire lives before they can look back without flinching. The fact that you are here reading these words means you have already taken a bigger step than you realize. When you admit you were hurt, you start to reclaim your power. Because from this moment on, you no longer have to pretend. You don't have to play the role of the endlessly grateful child. You are allowed to be sad, allowed to be angry, allowed to feel disappointed, and most importantly, you are allowed to be real. If you need a place to start, try this simple practice. Take a blank sheet of paper and write at the top, the truth I have never dared to say. Then let your pen guide you. You don't have to write perfectly. You don't have to make sense. You only have to be honest. And if you're not ready, fold the paper and put it somewhere safe. You can come back when you feel stronger. Remember, healing is not a race. It is a slow process of learning to see yourself with eyes of compassion. The mother wound does not disappear just because you pretend it never existed. It simply burrows deeper into your subconscious, quietly shaping every choice, every relationship. But today, you have taken the very first step. You have chosen to look at the truth. And from here, everything new becomes possible. If this resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the rest of this healing journey. Let's keep walking together. There is something almost no one teaches us when we're little. Mothers are not perfect. From an early age, we hear beautiful stories about mothers, that she is an angel, the endless source of love, the one who is always right and never fails. These stories are told so often that by the time we grow up, we carry a belief that feels unshakable. A mother must be perfect. And then when reality doesn't match this idea, we don't dare to admit it. Because if our mother wasn't perfect, everything feels unstable. If she hurt us, it threatens the sense of safety we clung to as children. But here's the truth. The image of the perfect mother is a myth. It's a story our culture has created to protect the idea of the ideal family, not to help us heal. Carl Jung once said, shame is a soul-eating emotion. And it's that shame when we start to see the truth that makes so many of us pretend. Pretend everything was fine. Pretend we didn't need more. Pretend she was always right. But deep in your heart, you already know No one on this earth is perfect, not even your mother. So why do we hold on so tightly to this illusion? Because we're afraid. Afraid that if our mother wasn't perfect, we might not be worthy of love. Afraid that if we admit her mistakes, we will have to face the pain we've hidden for so long. Step 2. In healing the mother wound is this: freeing yourself from the myth of the perfect mother. Not to blame her, not to erase the good she did, but to see her honestly as a human being with her own unhealed wounds. When you were a child, you had no choice but to believe in her unconditionally. You needed her to survive. You needed her to feel safe. And you were willing to defend her just to protect that fragile sense of security. But now you are an adult. You no longer have to depend on her for everything. You have the right to place your hand over your heart and say, I can love my mother without needing her to be perfect. Ask yourself, what am I protecting by holding on to this image of the perfect mother? Am I afraid that if I see her imperfections, I'll lose the love I've clung to? Can I love a real human being instead of an idealized version? If you'd like, try this simple exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 core beliefs you've held about your mother. For example, my mother was always right. My mother never hurt me. My mother loved me unconditionally. Then ask yourself, do these beliefs truly reflect reality? What would happen if I allowed myself to see her as a real person? Sometimes the fear isn't really about losing the myth itself. It's about losing the illusion that we were always safe. But when you can step through that fear, you finally have the chance to build a more authentic relationship with her and with yourself. You don't have to erase the good memories. You simply need to let the truth coexist alongside the love. You can say, my mother loved me in her own way, and also say, and she hurt me too. Both can be true at the same time. And when you can accept that, you may feel a surprising sense of relief, like you've finally given your mother permission to be human instead of a flawless angel. That doesn't make you a bad child. It simply makes you an adult, someone brave enough to see the truth and love from a place of honesty. If you feel ready, leave a comment and share your story. Speaking it out loud means you no longer have to carry this burden alone. You are not alone. There is a kind of pain many people don't want to face. The pain of a dream that never came true. The dream of a gentle mother who would hold you whenever you felt sad. A mother who knew how to listen, who knew how to comfort you, who could look into your eyes and say, I'm proud of you. Maybe you spent your whole childhood and even your adult life waiting for that moment, waiting for her to notice you, waiting for a simple word of praise, waiting for any sign that you were truly loved unconditionally. And then as the years passed, you began to realize that moment might never come. This is a truth so many of us would rather not touch, because to admit it means facing a deep emptiness, the place where the love you hoped for was supposed to be. Step 3. In healing the mother wound is this: allowing yourself to mourn the dream of the mother you never had. You might ask yourself, am I being weak for still longing for something that was never real? I'm an adult now. Why do I still need my mother's love? The truth is, every human being is born with a need to be loved by their parents. This isn't weakness. It is a natural, rightful human longing. And because that need was never fully met, you still carry a quiet hunger inside a dream of an ideal mother. Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. The more you deny this grief, the more it silently shapes you. The more you pretend to be strong, the deeper it burrows into your heart. So the first step to releasing this dream is allowing yourself to grieve it. You can begin with a simple practice. Find a quiet space. Sit down and take a few slow breaths. Then picture in front of you the mother you always wished for. Imagine her smiling at you, opening her arms to hold you. Let your heart say all the words you never got to say. I wish you could have seen me. I wish you were proud of me. I wish you could have loved me without conditions. When you're ready, write all of these words down on paper. Write honestly without judgment. Nothing is too much or too small. Every sentence is a step toward release. After you finish writing, fold the paper gently. Place your hand on it and say, "This was my dream. I honor it, and I am ready to let it go." If you feel called, you can burn the paper, a simple ritual to say goodbye to the hope that never became reality. As you watch it turn to ash, imagine that all your unmet expectations are being released back to the universe. You no longer have to carry this burden alone. You no longer have to wait for your mother to change so you can feel whole. You may cry. You may feel a wide emptiness inside you. Let the tears fall. Let the emptiness be there, because in that space, you will begin to learn how to fill it with your own love. Ask yourself, if I stop hoping my mother will become the mother I needed, how will I live? If I stop waiting for her praise, where will I look for validation? Can I become the loving mother I always longed for? When you dare to grieve your old dream, you open a space for something new. You start to see your mother as a human being, not a savior. You start to see yourself as someone already worthy, not someone waiting for another person to give you your value. This is not an easy process. It takes time. There will be days when you feel fragile. There will be nights when you ache for her acknowledgement more than anything. But remember, you are not alone in this journey. If you know someone who carries this hidden pain, share this video. A small gesture can lighten the weight on their shoulders, and it can also be your way of saying, "I am ready to move forward." When you've already admitted the truth and grieved the dream that never happened, you might begin to notice something strange. That pain doesn't just live in your memories of your mother. It's still showing up in your life right now, disguised in different forms. Have you ever wondered, why do I keep getting pulled into relationships where I feel small? Why do I always try so hard to please others, only to end up feeling unworthy? It isn't an accident. It's what we call relationship patterns, and it's one of the most important concepts in healing the mother wound. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The parts of you that you haven't recognized will quietly keep running your life. Whether you realize it or not, there is a place in your heart that still longs for the same old story, waiting for love from someone who won't or can't give it, trying to be good enough to finally earn approval, or unconsciously choosing people who make you feel like you'll never measure up. Because for the child inside, what's familiar often feels safer than what's truly good for you. Better to feel pain you already know than to risk the unknown of being happy. This is when you need to pause and ask yourself, who am I reenacting this old story with? Take a quiet evening, open a journal, and answer these 3 questions honestly. 1. Who in my life makes me feel like I'm not enough? Maybe it's a partner who criticizes you, a friend who constantly compares you to others, a colleague who never acknowledges your effort. 2. Where have I felt this feeling before? Go back to your memories. When did you feel this with your mother? Was it in her cold stare when you failed, or in the way she made you feel like you were never quite good enough? 3. Why does this dynamic feel familiar to me? This is the deepest question, because only when you can answer it will you start to see the connection between your past and your present. You will begin to realize you've been unconsciously recreating relationships that echo your old pain. You've been trying to fix that original story by acting it out again and again with different people. When you have the courage to answer these questions, place your hand over your heart and say to yourself, I see this pattern now, and I am learning how to step out of it. Please don't blame yourself for falling into relationships that hurt you. You are not weak. You are simply human, still trying deep down to finish a story that was left unresolved. But today, you are not that child anymore. You don't have to keep begging for approval from people who cannot give it. You have the right to walk away from any pattern that makes you feel small. Remember, you deserve love that doesn't require you to prove your worth. You deserve relationships that feel safe, a place where you can simply be yourself. If you feel scared at the thought of leaving behind familiar relationships, that's normal. We are often afraid of what's new, even when it's better for us. Take it slow. Know that simply recognizing the pattern is the first step. You don't have to change everything overnight. Every time you can say, "This is my old pattern," you are already giving yourself a little more freedom. If you do nothing else today, do this one thing. Write down the name of the person who makes you feel not enough, and quietly say in your heart, "I don't need to keep replaying this story." It might be a friend, a partner, a coworker. Whoever they are, you don't have to keep sacrificing your peace to earn love that's not real. You are starting a new chapter, one where your worth is no longer decided by anyone else's approval. After you've faced the truth, let go of the old dream and recognized your repeating relationship patterns. You might find yourself wondering, so what now? If I'm no longer waiting for my mother to change, where will I find the love I need? This is one of the most important steps in healing the mother wound. Learning how to become the good, loving mother you always needed for yourself. Maybe this idea feels strange. How can you mother yourself? But the truth is, only you can truly understand. Be patient with and nurture the parts of you that were never fully seen. Think about this. If a little child stood in front of you with fear and sadness in their eyes, what would you do? Would you scold them for being weak? Or would you open your arms and say, "It's okay, you're safe now"? That child is still inside you, and you are the only one who can truly comfort them. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." When you begin to choose to be a loving mother to yourself, you are stepping out of the shadow of your past. You can start with small practices that have a surprisingly deep impact. 1. Learning to talk to your inner child. When you feel disappointed, exhausted, or unworthy, place your hand over your heart and say, "I know this hurts. I understand why you're scared, but I am here with you." These simple words can soothe your heart more than any advice from someone else. 2. Writing a letter to yourself. Set aside a quiet evening. Pick up a pen and write a letter to yourself as if you were the mother who loved you more than anything. You might start with, "My dear one." Then let all your feelings flow onto the page. Tell yourself how proud you are of how much you've survived, even if no one ever said those words to you. Write that you are worthy of love, even when you're doing nothing at all. 3. Changing the voice inside you. Maybe you've gotten used to hearing a harsh voice in your mind saying you're worthless, you're not good enough, you need to try harder. Whenever that voice shows up, pause, take a deep breath, and gently respond, "No, I don't believe that anymore. I am worthy of love even if I'm not perfect." This isn't something you do once and never again. It's an ongoing practice, a steady commitment to treating yourself with kindness. Every day you choose to speak to yourself gently, you are stitching together the torn pieces of your heart. Ask yourself, if I were the mother I always wished for, what would I say to myself today? If I could care for myself like a precious child, how would my life change? At first this may feel awkward or even sad, because part of you has been waiting for someone else to finally do it. But here lies the greatest freedom. You don't have to wait anymore. You can give yourself the love you always thought you had to earn from someone else. Remember, becoming the good mother to yourself doesn't mean you don't need other people. It simply means you no longer depend on validation from those who cannot give it. You can still love your mother, forgive her, or keep your distance if you need to. But now you will no longer let the past decide your worth. You are learning how to become the source of love your heart has always longed for. And that is the most profound transformation. You've already come so far. You've admitted the truth. You've mourned the dream that never happened. You've recognized your repeating patterns. And you've begun learning how to be the gentle, loving mother to yourself. But there are still 2 final steps, 2 doors, that can help you strengthen everything you've started. Step 6. Finding guides and healing communities. One of the deepest wounds of the mother wound is the feeling that you are completely alone. You may have believed that no one could ever understand your pain, that you were the ungrateful child or the weak one because you couldn't simply get over it. But here's the truth. So many people are carrying the same silent wound. You are not alone. Try opening your heart to the possibility of finding a guide, a friend, a therapist, or a safe community where you can share without fear of judgment. Sometimes hearing someone say, "I've been there too," is enough to lift the heaviest part of your heart. A good mentor won't tell you to forget your pain. They will help you look at it with compassion and remind you that your wound is only part of your story, not the whole of who you are. If you can look for support groups or group therapy. When you hear the stories of others, you will realize that vulnerability is the common thread that connects all human hearts. Step 7. Deep therapy. Opening a new chapter. Some wounds are too big, too old, too deeply woven into your subconscious for you to heal them alone. And that doesn't mean you're weak. It simply means you are human, and humans deserve to be supported. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Deep therapy is one way to make that truth real. It is a safe space where you can speak your story without fear of judgment. A space where you can cry, rage, grieve, and finally be seen as your whole self. When you look for a therapist, listen to your intuition. You do not have to choose someone who makes you feel intimidated or reminds you of your critical mother. You have the right to find someone patient, empathic, and gentle, someone whose presence feels like relief. If you have ever tried therapy and felt judged, minimized, or unsafe, you are allowed to stop and look for someone else. You owe no one your continued discomfort. When you start therapy, remind yourself, "I'm not doing this because I am weak. I'm doing this because I am brave enough to change." You don't have to do all of this in one day. You don't have to become completely healed all at once. This journey is a long road, sometimes slow, sometimes challenging, but every step you take is worthy. Remember, you are no longer the child waiting for someone else to rescue you. You are rescuing yourself with truth, compassion, and the love you never received enough of. If you found this video helpful, I invite you to subscribe so we can keep walking this healing journey together. You can share this video with friends or loved ones because maybe they too are waiting for a gentle reminder. And please leave a comment sharing your own story. You are not alone. Here, we walk forward together.